So good morning. Thank you so much for everybody who watched my last video. I was overwhelmed with the responses that I got and just really wanted to acknowledge each and every one of you that took the time to tune in to my chat about perfectionism. I hope that it sheds some light on maybe something you're facing or working on in your own life, or just made you aware of maybe something you weren't aware of before. The purpose of my video today is to talk about listening. I recently assisted with another landmark course this past weekend, and it was on communications. But my discoveries didn't just come from being in the actual course itself, though there were a lot of discoveries. It also came from being an assistant, or if in other words other than landmarks words, a volunteer. And I really discovered, let me rephrase that. I went in with the intention of wanting to be clear in my words and in my direction, mainly with my team at my studio. And when I made that phone call with one of the coaches to express my intentions, he led me to believe that in order to be a great director, you need to be a great listener. And I always thought that I was really good at listening because a lot of people like to talk to me. And when I'm listening, I always have a lot of great things to say. So I was kind of thinking I was above all of that, and didn't really realize, that I'm a horrible listener. It occurred to me that I was a horrible listener. And we did a few exercises where we had to listen to what the speaker was saying and write them down, and see how much of each sentence we actually heard. And I did okay, but I also will always figure things out. That's just one of my formulas in life, is that I'll always figure it out. And so I thought I had it because I was meditating and I was in the zone and I was trying to concentrate. And long story short, I was a horrible listener. And when I discovered the truth about that, man, it hits you like a wall. And last night, three of my best friends actually, and if we're talking about the entirety of yesterday, expressed to me that they haven't been heard. And what I mentioned in my last video is most of what we think of other people is usually a reflection of ourselves. It also works in other people's actions. So if you have people around you that aren't sharing or are closing themselves off, which was in my case, or don't feel as though they can trust you to share something, well, that was a really rude awakening for me yesterday. And my three best friends opened up to me that they had things that were bothering them that happened in the last week, like let alone I could only imagine what's happened in the last year, that they didn't want to share with me because I never hear them, because I'm always trying to fix it. And that was hard. That was really hard for me to hear, because the impact that made on those people's lives, where I thought I was hearing them, but I wasn't even coming close to hearing them. And the impact that had on my life was I couldn't have connections with people. I couldn't, again, receive and be open to love because I wasn't willing. I was too busy pretending like I was Bruce Almighty and could, turn water into wine and fix people and help people and counsel them. I became righteous. I don't want to be like that. I want to hear people. I want people to share with me when they're sad, and just open up and be willing to be vulnerable, because they know they will be supported in my listening. And to keep going on this impact that it had, I was digging a little bit deeper prior to calling one of my best friends in the morning. And I was digging a little bit deeper because I own a business. I own a dance studio, and I'm really willing to listen to the young people within that, and the parents. And even then I wasn't authentically listening, but I was looking at how that was reflecting in my own life. You know, the people that I supposedly care about, that I wasn't listening to, I was avoiding. I was shutting them out. And I was having these mechanical conversations with them, the same style of conversation repeated over time. And there was no substance. And I would rather invest and listen to the people in my studio and on the outskirts of my life. I mean, they're in my life, but you know, not as direct as like my mom and my dad and my brother and my best friends. But you know, I was investing more time in those relationships and just brushing the other ones aside. And like I said earlier, where you know, the problems that we see in other people are ones that we're reflecting on ourselves. My inner circle couldn't even talk to me because I was avoiding them, and I was pushing them away, and I would never let them in. I didn't want to share. I didn't want to talk to them. And so as a result, none of them wanted to talk to me. And I avoided them, I think, because of that mechanical and automatic conversation and dialogue that I was having, where from past experiences, I would hear things that weren't actually said. I have this memory, and I'm going to share it with you, of being in grade 7. So I must have been about 13 years old. And we went on a cruise to Alaska. My dance studio went, but so did the rest of my family. And my Nana, the one who recently passed away, it was for her, I think her 70th birthday, 60th, 70th birthday. That'd be right. 80th. Shoot, can't remember. See, wasn't listening. Anyway, so we went on this cruise, and I gallivanted off one night with my friends after going to the disco to the buffet. It was about midnight, and I didn't communicate with my parents as to where I was going. And my mom and dad freaked out, and they were worried, and they sent my brother to look for me, and he couldn't find me either. Long story short, he found me, and I went to my parents' room, and I got screamed at. I was yelled at. And I can still remember the feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was upset. I was scared. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to get present to it and how it felt. I'm standing in this small, confined cruise ship room. My dad's here. My mom's over there. My brother, I believe, was sitting on a bed. And he's yelling at me. And my mom's upset, arms crossed. And I'm crying. And I have this feeling in my stomach of guilt, shame, sadness, disappointment. And my dad is telling me We were worried about you. We didn't know where you went. You could have fallen overboard. You didn't communicate what you were doing. Your phone was left off the hook. We tried to call you. We can't get in touch. We couldn't get in touch with you. Where have you been? What have you been doing? I told him my story. Continues to yell. And then he says, you haven't been spending any time with your family. Your grandmother paid for this trip, and you haven't even seen her once. "13-year-old Milena didn't hear that. She heard, you're ungrateful. You're ungrateful because your grandmother paid for this trip." And that was it. I didn't hear that I was shutting out my family, spending all the time with my friends, and not communicating. I made up this story. And in that story, everything I did from that point on was to make sure that people didn't think I was ungrateful. So I would thank people 1,000 times. I would go out of my way to show my appreciation. I would be fake and phony and overmuch and over the top all the time. So when somebody was talking to me, I was trying to file it. That was just one story. That's just one automatic dialogue that I have. I have a million others that I'm dealing with right now. And so instead of hearing somebody, I've been on these paths of filing it for what I want to hear or what I have heard. Not for what's actually being said. Now, I use the example of my best friends, and them telling me that last night shows me that I've seen it, I've dealt with it, and now I'm aware of it. And when you're aware of something, you can't escape it. And I don't want to escape it. I want to get better from here on out. And with listening, I can communicate better. I really can. Because I'm actually understanding what people are trying to tell me, what they're trying to share with me, and then communicating from a point of understanding and not trying to file it in what I already know in order to fix or to change or to get something out of. Just to listen, to help recreate them, our situation, give direction, whatever it be. Last night I went and saw my brother and my mom. Because my brother lives in Toronto now. He's here visiting, and my mom lives here. But I finished work late, and my brother phoned me, and I listened to his voicemail, and I went over there because he leaves today. And my mom shared with me last week that my grandma's celebration of life is on Thursday, June 20th, and automatically, I have to work. Came out of my mind. Not the significance of it. I didn't hear my mom. And last night, I would have probably chosen to go home because I wouldn't have listened to my brother. But, I was tired. It'd been a long day at work. And I went there. And I got to share. And I got to listen. And I got to love them. Because I was so present to what they were saying and who they are. I'm crying because I've lived my whole life not listening to people. And when I see the impact, and I can tell you very clearly that that's not gonna happen anymore. I can stand here and be present to the fact that things are gonna change, and they need to. So, I need a box of Kleenexes around here. I hope you watch this video today and if you're watching it because you're someone in my life who hasn't felt like they've been listened to, I'd love for you to share that with me. I would love for you to connect with me and communicate with me what's standing in our way so that we can create space in our relationship to have a relationship. And if you're just watching this, well, for the mere enjoyment of it, I hope you enjoyed this conversation today. But I want to end this with a challenge. I want you to sit down with somebody you know or you love. And there's two options here. I want you to, for one, have them pick 5 sentences. It can be at random or true. And read them to you. Slowly or regular tone, one at a time. And when they're finished reading one, I want you to write it down. Write down what you heard. And if you didn't hear them, or write down what they said 100% to each word, mark it with a no. If you heard them and you wrote down everything, I want you to hear or write a Y or a yes. Not a right or a wrong, not a, partially right or correcting it, just yes or no. And maybe that'll put into light how much you listen. And the second thing or option that you can do is think of a moment in life, a memory that is quite vivid for you, and break it down. Where are you? How old are you? What are you doing? And just take a look at what somebody said to you. Usually it'll come up where you've got a story you've told yourself. Oh, they said this. Like for mine, oh, you're ungrateful. And the more you dig into the details about that memory, the more you're gonna realize that was all in your head. And I'll leave that for you to discover. And once you look at this memory, think about how many areas in your life that you actually hear that conversation happening. I gave the example of I am grateful. You are not grateful. That's what I hear. But another one that I also hear is you can't do it. And God, does it make the pit of my stomach just churn when somebody says that. But looking at it, I'm no longer going to hear that. So if you can uncover these memories and these uncomfortable situations, life's going to elevate. You're going to elevate. You're going to have deeper and stronger connections with people that you didn't think were possible. You're going to be able to be intimate with people, actually intimate. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I am so excited for my day to listen to the preschoolers that have so many stories to tell me and to be present with them in the next few hours. And to hear my best friends talk today and share their lives, and my students to be present with them and be a part of them. I'm very excited for today. Have a great day.